continuing on with our topic of necessary sin. So if you weren't here last week, just kind of brief recap. There's certain sins out there that are kind of absolute. We don't really question. You know, rape is a sin out there that we don't really mess with. We're like, yes, that's wrong. We go adultery, yes, that's wrong. We go murder, yes, that's wrong. But sometimes there's sin that we think is a little more socially acceptable. We think it's something that, it's actually part of everyday life. It's actually something necessary to how you function. Today we're going to be talking about a necessary sin, or a sin that a lot of us think is necessary, is gossip. But before we get started, we're going to go ahead and start with our prayer. And this is kind of our prayer for this series, so if you will read along with me. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Alright, that's our prayer, okay? So today we're going to be talking about gossip, okay? And gossip is something that's hard to talk about. Okay, it's not actually hard to talk about. Gossip is easy to talk about. It's hard to not gossip. It's something that we often find in our everyday lives. Some of you probably have participated in the act of gossip today. Some of you, it may have been while we were doing games and activities a second ago. Gossip is something that a lot of us do very often. Okay? But the real question is, what is gossip? Okay, what is gossip? And I really like, Rick Warren has a definition out there, and it looks a little bit like this. Rick Warren's definition says this. It says, when we are talking about a situation with somebody who is neither part of the problem or part of the solution, then we are probably gossiping. Okay? So if we're talking with someone about something that really has nothing to do with them at all, more than likely you're probably gossiping about them. Alright, now, why is this necessarily bad? Kind of like last week where we had verse after verse talking about it. This is another thing that God is pretty clear about. Okay? God says this about it. He says, there are six things the Lord hates, and 7 that are detestable to Him. We skip on down to 19. It says, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in community. Okay, so the Bible is pretty clear about it. Okay, God hates that. God hates it whenever we go out and we basically share lies. We talked about lies last week, right? Things that it's not really our business. And you know why? You know why God hates it? How many of you have parents in here? Awesome, everybody, good. And so, parents can deal with it, can realize this. I'm not a parent yet, but I got to witness what it's like whenever someone makes fun of a parent's child. Whenever I was in high school, my brother's junior year, in a math class, he was struggling a little bit in the math class, and he got a bad grade on the test. I think it was like a 76 or something like that. He did not do well. Well, he actually got the same grade as someone, the person in the desk beside him. They also got a 76. And so Mr. Dillard, which is the name of the math teacher, he decided that since the person beside him got a 76 as well, that my brother cheated. And he wrote him up, and he had it was like an office referral, I forget what they called it. But he had to go and talk with the vice principal about what he did, and a note went home to my mother saying that your son cheated on a test. To which my brother said, no, I did not cheat. If I cheated, don't you think I would have done better? But that's not part of the point. He said no. And my mom, when she got the note, was less than thrilled. If you ever have met my mom or you get a chance to meet my mom is a brilliant person with words. She can tear you apart. You know those people that they can come in, she doesn't use bad words or anything like that, but she just comes in with the words, right? And she came in and talked to Mr. Dillard. And talked to Mr. Dillard and talked to Mr. Dillard. And when she was done, Mr. Dillard decided to go back and check. And upon further review, they actually missed completely different questions. Okay? My mom actually graduated with Mr. Dillard from high school. Still to this day is not happy with him about that. Because of one instance of where her son was misspoken about by this person. So, imagine God, who is our creator, is probably not going to be very thrilled about us talking about his children. Not really behind his back, because you can't really get there. God's everywhere. But when we're slandering his kids, whenever we're talking bad about his children, obviously God is not going to be a fan of that. So, here's the real question. Why do we participate in gossip? Any takers out there? Anything? Yeah. Makes you feel better about yourself. Very true. Very true. There's something about whenever you know information, right? You find out some sort of scoop and you're just like, ooh, I'm glad I know this, right? Okay, what else? What else about it? Yeah. Everyone else is doing it? Okay, that's a part of it. You don't want everyone else is talking about so-and-so. I'm going to talk about so-and-so. Okay. Yeah, John?
Something to talk about.
Just something to talk about. How many of you find yourself bored? You want something to talk about, right? Okay, it's something you just talk about? Yeah. Ooh, all right. I like that. Why'd I say that? Ooh. All right. All right. It helps people focus on other things. Absolutely right. Whenever your life is not necessarily good, well, at least I'm not like so-and-so who does yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean, right? Okay, Evan.
Okay, you said to tear down people you don't like.
Absolutely. If you are insecure and maybe someone you don't like, you can be like, oh, well, you know what they did? I heard that they did with, and you wouldn't believe that. Right? We use it, we build, we tear down people. All right, last one, JC.
If they're just plain out mean, then they could just make it worse.
All right, so if you're just mean, you're just mean. You know what? That's very true. Sorry, that's our last one. That was our last one, Chris. I'm sorry. I called it beforehand. I got to be a man of my word. I can't lie to you, okay? Because that was last week and I don't want to get in trouble. All right. So, you're right. All these answers are good. We do it because it makes us feel powerful. We do it because some people have boring lives and they just want to hear it. It's more entertaining than... I'm not pointing to you that you have a boring life. You suggested it. Sorry. There's just something about it. In fact, the Bible even mentions this. It says the words of a gossip are like choice morsels. Those who don't understand what that is, like a good piece of food. Okay? They go down to the inmost part. It's something that it is very tempting for us to be a part of. It's something that's very tempting for us to try to grab hold to. But all of these reasons, none of them are a good reason to gossip. None of them. Alright? So without going much into it, we know that we don't need to gossip. How do we overcome it? How do we stop gossiping? Okay? So the first question there's a couple questions I have. You need to ask yourself if you're struggling with the sin of gossip. Okay? Here's the first one. Is my conversation helpful or is it hurtful? Now sometimes we're sneaky about this. I know sometimes I do this. We do like it's kind of like a compliment sandwich, you know what I'm saying? We're like, man, Jimmy, I like Jimmy. He's an awesome dude. But Jimmy is the most annoying person in the world. But he also has great taste. And so it's like we sit there and we try. It makes it okay as long as we compliment them, and then we compliment them, and it's all right. Is that all right? No. We do that a lot, right? We have the bless your heart thing. Oh, bless your heart. That person's dumb as a sack of hammers. Bless their heart. We do that. We sit there. We try to make it okay that we're talking bad about somebody. We try to do stuff like that. And you know what? A place that's really bad about this. Come back up. A place that's really bad about this is churches. We can be very bad in church about it. All in the name of a prayer request, mind you. Sometimes it's small groups, sometimes it's in church prayer groups. Maybe you come in and everyone's gathered around and it's like, okay, prayer time. They're like, woo, I got one. Okay, it's Sarah. I went by her house yesterday and she wasn't there. So I drove by her boyfriend's house and her car was there. I went by 2 hours later. Boyfriend is still at the boyfriend's house. I drove by that night. It was late. She was still there. And I went by in the morning. Her car was still there. What a sinner. We need to pray for her. And that's like you finish up this whole thing like, oh man, so-and-so, man, they are doing drugs and they're awful and they're just bad people and all that. And you know what? I heard they're doing this and that, and we'll pray for them. That's kind of like we're trying to cover up the fact that we just spent this whole time of lifting someone up in prayer, when really all we're doing is we're spreading the gossip that we heard. Okay? And this is not just a girl thing, mind you. Guys do this too. So for all the guys out there going like, oh yeah, little chatty girls. No, guys do it too. They just may not be as long. They're just a little quicker about it. Yeah, I heard so-and-so got drunk on Friday night. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, it's still gossiping. It may have been 10 seconds. It may not have been an hour and a half talk, but we're still gossiping. Okay? Some of you may feel offended by that, but it's not true. Okay? We all find ourselves in this spot. And this is something else too. Like with the church groups, right? And then I've heard this. I've said before, well, if it's true, then it's okay to say. No. No. Listen to this. And this is a phrase by Craig Groeschel, and I really like it. It says this. It says, everything that's said should be true. But not everything true must be said. Okay? And so I'm going to say it again. Everything that is said should be true. Not everything true must be said. Because sometimes what we do is we go in the name of being truthful. We make sure to tell someone who has no part of, like we said earlier, not part of the problem, not part of the help. We're just telling them the bad stuff about somebody just so we can get all those things we talked about earlier. And it's like, oh, but it's true. No, that does not mean that we need to share everything. All right? That does not mean that we need to be gossiping just because it's true. Okay? And we're going to kind of get into that in a second. And the second question is this. Oh, I skipped my verse. I'm sorry. I want y'all to see these verses. Okay. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building up others. See, sometimes the truth that you're telling is not helpful for building up others. Okay? If you come up to me, all right, and I think I've been using this for 4 years, and one day I'm going to come up here and I'm going to be like 200 pounds and not 250. And you come to me and go, Jack, you're overweight. Okay? That's truthful. That's hurtful. That's not lifting me up. All right? Now, it's different. It's different if you're just an outsider coming up and you're just telling me, dude, man, you're looking fat. That is not. That may be truthful, but that is not lifting me up. Okay? Now, there's Teresa would never say it like that, but Teresa could tell me that we need to get in shape and be truthful and honest about it in a way that builds me up. But how are you doing? Are you saying things that are lifting other people up? Okay? So that's one way to look at it. The second one, scoundrels create trouble. Their words are a destructive blaze. A troublemaker plants seeds of strife. Gossip separates the best of friends. So whenever we're doing this, we're just sharing because it's true. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be hurtful. I've seen friends who have been like close friends who've confided in each other, and then that other person go and then they share to the world about whatever this friend confided in with them, and that gossiping broke up those friendships. So, is our language, is it helpful? Is it building up? If it's not, then why are we saying it? All right? The next question you need to ask yourself, am I making private matters public? Okay? Here we go. A gossip goes around telling secrets, but those who are trustworthy can keep a confidence, aka a secret. All right, we're going to have a moment of truth here. How many of you out there are not great secret keepers? Go ahead. All right, everybody, look around. Make sure don't tell. Okay, some people are not good with it. Now, some people are. I'm going to assume all y'all are in the boat of the secret keepers who are like the accidental flirt, like the surprise party. My best friend Andy, growing up, he was a horrible secret keeper, and my mom like surprised me like half of my growing up life with a surprise birthday party. Figured I'd figure it out, but not the fastest up there. So we're on our way. We're on our way home from golf. It's me, my brother, and Andy, and we're heading home. And he's like, "So Josh, are we still going by Pizza Hut? I thought we were going home." I'm like, "What do you mean?" To which his response was, "Oh, my mom's picking me up at Pizza Hut." I mean, and then he lied. But he's horrible at it. Probably 3 of my birthday parties were almost fooled by him, although I believed him when he lied about stuff like that, so it didn't fool him. Some people are just not good at keeping secrets, but honestly, it's important to be someone that someone else can confide in. Because if you are someone who doesn't do well with it, then you're going to have trouble building those close relationships. If people know you to be a gossip, then you're not really going to have any real true close friends because they're going to know better than to tell you things. Now, if you just raise your hand and you have trouble keeping secrets, I have faith in that you'll get better. I think there's hope for you yet. I'm not saying that so everyone should be defriend those people, but we have trouble keeping secrets. And then we have social media, right? Some people put on social media or through text messages something they never would say. They would never say in public or with their mouth. They put something up there, and then your 300 closest friends are going to see that. Right? Some of you send this stuff out. You would never say that to the person. You would never go up to 300 people and say, "Hey, did you know that so-and-so is breaking up with their boyfriend? Oh, it's bad." And we giggle about that, but it is something that's very hurtful, and it's very easy to access. With our social media, some people, that's all I see. Post after post is gossip after gossip after gossip. And my personal favorites are the ones that are like, that go, "I'm not going to mention who said so-and-so, but in math class today, blah, 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 that guy in the back of the room said da-da-da-da-da." All right? And it happens like these venting things. And it's gossip. That's what it is. You straight up, and it's like, "Oh, the redhead in my class, not going to name any names, there's only one redhead." No, come on. Right? I mean, I'm just saying redhead because it's rare. Not saying you. All right. So we need to be thinking about this. Are we making private matters public? And that not only protects others, but that protects you. That protects your friendships. Okay. Here's the thing to kind of go along with that. When arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secrets. Here again, keeping secrets is good. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain a good reputation. When you're someone who spreads gossip, it ruins your reputation. Not even to put aside the fact that it ruins your reputation for God, because not only does it do that, it's like someone known as a gossip. I don't look at someone who's a gossip and go, "What a great Christian person." The one that's saying all this bad stuff behind people's back, right? So it's something that we have to be careful, because you don't want to become that person that no one wants to tell anything to. That is not helpful. That is not, going back to our first one, that's not lifting other people up. And our last question that we're going to address is, am I permitting others to gossip? Here's a real big one, because a lot of us may be like, "Oh, I don't spread all that stuff. I don't put that stuff on Facebook." But there's a lot of us who will sit there and gladly listen. Gladly let it happen. They'll just Oh, I wasn't sharing it. They were saying it. Okay? I want you to read this verse with me. Yeah, well, not with me, but look at it while I read it. Wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Liars pay close attention to slander. Okay? Wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Whenever you are permitting something to happen, you are promoting it. Whenever someone is gossiping around you, you are promoting their gossip. You are giving them legs to stand on, so to speak, with their gossip. That goes with anything in life. If you think about it, whenever you let something happen, you're saying that's okay. And whenever we let gossip go on around us, whenever we just sit there and absorb, we are telling that person, you know what, it's perfectly fine that you gossip. I'm here, I'm a listening ear. You know, it's tough. It's something tough to kind of sink in, because a lot of times, what do we think about whenever, when I just said that to you, you probably think, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to stop hanging around with him? Maybe. Got some suggestions for you, some ways to handle this. Now, we have the subtle way. How many of you are subtle people? How many of you know what subtle is? All right, good. We got about 6 of you. All right, subtle. People who don't want to be overtly out there with it. You want to kind of be behind the scenes with it. You don't want to stir the water, so to speak. You can do it this way. You can say, that someone comes up and starts gossiping to you, you can be like, I'm not feeling very comfortable with this conversation. Okay, that's one way to say it. That's one way to, hey, let's steer this somewhere else. I'm not very comfortable with this. If you want to be the caring person, you can do a little bit like this. And we'll just keep using Jimmy. If Jimmy knew if we were talking about them, would they be hurt by this? See, that's the caring one. It's like, oh, I'm caring about someone else. Yeah. I mean, then you have the biblical. If you want to go all biblical on them, you can be like, hey, if you have a problem, maybe you should go directly to them, like it says in the Bible several times. Go straight to the person with the problem first. Okay, so you can go biblical, or you can be the direct. You can be the in-your-face direct, okay? Which is like, hey! I don't finger, just do it. Hey! Right there. If you keep talking, I don't know why the head's going too. Woo! All right. If you keep talking about others, I'm not going to hang out with you. Would you? Yes. All right. So that's exactly it. And you go, okay, wow, that may be a little bit harsh, but honestly, for some people, it will take someone saying, this is so bad what you're doing, I cannot be around you, for them to even know what they're doing is wrong. You got to pick one, because if we're permitting it to happen, we're promoting it. You do not need to be a part of gossiping. Okay? And the big thing about this too, because some of us are like, I just listen to gossip, If someone gossips to you, what do you think they also do? They gossip about you. If someone's talking to you about gossip, you can bet your money that they are talking to someone else about you and your business. Okay? It's how it works. So when you permit it, know that that's probably going to come back on you later. All right? So, and really there are very few times, but there are times when we have to talk about a third party, another person, but they're rare, okay? And there's two reasons why you can really be doing this. There may be more, but there's two that I've kind of thought of. And the first one is saying something constructive that you would say in front of them, okay? It's saying something that I would tell you in person. All right? Teresa, like we just used the example before, Teresa would say in front of me, we need to go work out more. Jack, you need to eat healthier. In fact, she has said that to me. She hid the Reese cups from me, guys. I'm not going to lie. They were hidden in the house somewhere. All right? She would say that in front of my face as well as behind my back. Okay? So that is an example. Okay, and I'm not talking about, I would say that in front of their face. They're an idiot. I would say that. If they were here, I would say that. Would you really? Probably not. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that is constructive criticism that you would say in front of their face. Second thing is this. in the conversation wants to help the person. Say we have someone who's addicted to drugs. Okay? I get a couple of you together, several people that are friends of the person. We get together to talk about the situation. How can we help? Not, oh, can you believe so-and-so did whatever. How can we help? What can we do as a group to help that person? When you're doing it outside of these two things, chances are you're probably gossiping. And it's something to me that I have to be very careful with myself, because in my job, there's a lot of things you tell me that I have to keep in confidence. And it's something that I have to be careful with how I say stuff, because, am I gossiping or not? Am I being helpful or not? Am I just ragging on one of you or not? I have to make sure. And each of you has to make sure, because when we gossip, we are representing what we believe, what we promote. Are we promoting sin, or are we promoting God? Last thing I want to tell you is this. Your words matter. We've talked about this a lot. Your words matter. Our verse is this. It says, "But I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned." Think about that. Every word you have spoken. Nothing gets by God. So our words, are we lifting up? Are we tearing down? Are we saying useless stuff? Or what are we doing? Because everything's being accounted for. And sad to say, if I were to probably look at my teenage life and stack up on one side the amount of good words and good use of words I had, and then the amount of bad use of words I had, not necessarily, I really didn't cuss, but talking bad about people and gossiping and things like that, I'm afraid that my list of bad words and bad things I've said would have been higher than the other side. It's very important. How many of you, raise your hand, have you ever been hurt by something someone said? Right? More than likely, all of us, at some point in time, someone has said something to you that hurts. So what I want for you this week, my challenge for you this week, is this. I want you to go a full week from now until next Sunday without gossiping. And by gossiping, I mean either being the ones saying the gossip or being the ones receiving the gossip. It's going to be tough. Some of you may not have to talk to some friends this week. I want you to go a whole week without saying something that's gossip. That is my challenge for you. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to have this last song. Fan the last song. We're going to sing. We're going to praise God. And I want you, while you're out there, I want you to say this simple prayer. God, help me to not gossip this week. And that's it. That's your challenge for this week. Will you pray with me?